If you're a developer who works with Adobe, you know all about the power of tools like Creative Cloud, Experience Platform, and Document Cloud. But let's be real, you also know they can sometimes feel like they're living in completely different universes. So we're going to dive in and decode the powerful set of tools designed to connect them all, the Adobe Developer Ecosystem, which you probably know as Adobe I. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the big challenge that so many of us face. Then we'll introduce the unified platform Adobe built to solve it. We'll explore your command center, the serverless engine that makes it all tick, and the modern tools that'll make your life way easier. And finally, we'll talk about what all this means for you. All right, let's start with a problem that I bet sounds pretty familiar. You've got access to some of the world's best creative, experience, and document tools, but, getting them to actually talk to each other can be a real headache. I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? How do you build an app that can grab an asset from Creative Cloud, pull customer data from Experience Platform, and then spit out a personalized PDF using Document Cloud? How do you make these incredible but separate clouds act like one cohesive unit? Yeah, see, each of these clouds is a beast on its own. They've all got their own APIs, their own data structures, their own ways of handling authentication, and for a developer, trying to piece all that together, well, it can get messy and take up a ton of time. You need a bridge. You need a Rosetta Stone to make them all speak the same language. And that is exactly the bridge that Adobe decided to build. They created a single, unified platform to solve this massive integration puzzle, and they call it the Adobe Developer Ecosystem. At the very heart of this is Adobe I. Now, it's not just one product. Think of it as this huge umbrella, this comprehensive platform that gives you all the services, tools, and docs you need to work across the entire Adobe landscape. It's basically the central nervous system that connects everything together. And it's really interesting to see how Adobe themselves talk about it. This quote right here just perfectly nails the scope. It's not just about, here are some APIs, have fun. No, it's about building reactive, event-driven applications and even creating entire custom apps that live and breathe on Adobe's own infrastructure. That's a huge shift in how we can interact with these products. So if Adobe I/O is this whole ecosystem, how do you actually, plug into it? Well, that would be through your mission control, the Adobe Developer Console. This is your single dashboard for literally everything you do. And I'm not kidding, it really is like a command center. Every project you build, every API key you generate, every event you subscribe to, it all starts right here. So instead of trying to juggle a million different credentials and configs for different products, the console puts it all in one place. It gives you this super clear, organized view of everything you're building. So let's break down what this mission control actually lets you do. First off, you can organize everything into these logical projects, which is great for keeping your APIs and events from becoming a tangled mess. You manage all your secure credentials in one spot. Thank goodness, no more hunting around. You get access to a massive catalog of APIs, and you can subscribe to get notified when key things happen, like say a new asset gets uploaded. And this is crucial. You get insights into how your apps are being used, and you can easily manage access for your whole dev team. And of course, we have to talk about security. The entire platform is built with this enterprise-grade, defense-in-depth mindset. What that really means is your data is protected at every single layer with strong encryption both when it's moving and when it's just sitting there. You've got sandboxing to keep processes isolated and really granular access controls to make sure only the right people and services can touch your stuff. Okay, so we've got our command center. Now let's pop the hood and look at the engine that's doing all the heavy lifting. This is where things get really, really powerful for us as developers. It's the serverless powerhouse of the ecosystem, and it's made up of two core services, runtime and events. So the key here is understanding how these two play together. You've got Adobe I/O Runtime, which is the doer. It's a serverless platform built on Apache OpenWhisk, by the way, that lets you run your backend code, your business logic, in response to some trigger without ever having to think about a server. Then you've got Adobe I/O Events, which is the listener. It just sits there, watching for actions across all the Adobe services, and when something you care about happens, it sends out a little notification. And here's a perfect example of how they work together. Take the Asset Compute service. First, your app signs up to get its own unique journal, which is basically just a log of events meant only for you. Then you make an API call and say, hey, take this asset and make a thumbnail for me. Now, that's not going to happen instantly, but instead of just sitting there and waiting, your app just listens to its journal. As soon as the thumbnail is ready, an event pops up in the journal telling your app, okay, it's ready, go get it. It's a beautiful, clean, event-driven workflow. Of course, building these kinds of powerful integrations means you need equally powerful tools. So let's take a look at the modern toolset the ecosystem gives you to really streamline your workflow right from your own computer. And the absolute cornerstone of this toolkit is the AIO CLI. It's an open source command line interface that brings all the power of the developer console and then some right into your terminal. This is all about making you faster and enabling automation. Pretty much anything you can click on in the web UI, you can script and automate with the CLI. But the real magic of the CLI is in its modular plugins. For instance, the App plugin is your best friend for building and deploying custom enterprise apps with App Builder. The Cloud Manager plugin is a lifesaver for automating your CI/CD pipelines for AEM. The RDE plugin lets you instantly push code to test environments. And of course, the Events plugin lets you manage all your event registrations without ever leaving your terminal. So let's just take a step back. We went from this fragmented puzzle of separate clouds to a unified, super powerful platform. We've looked at the command center, the serverless engine, and the modern tools. So what does this all actually mean for you, the developer? Let's just quickly recap the big wins here. 1. You get a single, unified hub to manage everything. 2. You can build incredibly powerful event-driven apps that scale on their own thanks to serverless runtime and events. 3. You have a modern, extensible toolkit that fits right into your existing workflow. And, most importantly, all of this finally lets you achieve true cross-cloud integration, bridging those separate worlds once and for all. And that really brings us to the final and most important question. With all these barriers between Adobe's clouds just gone, the possibilities are kind of staggering. You can automate creative workflows, build these deeply personal customer journeys, and create entirely new apps that just weren't feasible before. So the only question left is, what will you build?